What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, bringing you the top Pokemon card auctions of the week recap. Folks, very healthy week, in my opinion, for both vintage and modern sales. We saw numerous very interesting auctions, including a BGS 10 base set Charizard that came by. So you want to stay till the very end. You're not going to want to miss today's episode. Quick shout out to today's auction recap sponsor. It is Ketchumallcollectibles.com, who has drastically lowered the fees for his buy it now consignment service through the eBay vault for single PSA, BGS, and CGC graded trading cards. This of course includes Pokemon cards, but also sports cards and pretty much anything that's eligible for the eBay authenticity guarantee. It's still a $25 minimum fee, but now with payouts as high as 99%. Check out the consignment process on Ketchumallcollectibles.com for all the details on how to submit your cards. And use referral code TTP5, as Ketchumall Collectibles will give you $25 credit for first-time consigners. Alright folks, let's get started off with this recap, starting off with this Hidden Fates Shiny Vault complete lot of PSA 10 cards. All 94 cards from the Shiny Vault sold for $2,705, which would make that a little over $28 per card. And that includes cards like the Charizard GX, the Evolutions, the Mewtwo. Every card from the Shiny Vault in PSA 10 sold for a little over $2,700 this week. That is crazy. I think that's a crazy good deal for anybody looking to get a complete set of PSA 10s, if you ask me. Up next, we saw the Moonbreon VMAX come by, doing very, very healthy once again, selling as a PSA 10 for $960, and then again for $991. And folks, it's crazy. This card has been graded so many times. There are so many PSA 10s, and it still goes for almost $1,000. That blows my mind. And even the CGC 10 pristine copies of this card go for over $1,000. This week, one sold for $1,417. And where do you get a card like this? Out of the Evolving Skies booster boxes, of course. And these booster boxes have been doing very well also. Here's a box that sold earlier this week for $590. Another box sold for $679. And then we saw a box end this week at $750. So this Evolving Skies box has been getting very, very expensive in the past few weeks. Here we have a pre-release Charizard from Evolutions. This is not the staff variant, just the one with the pre-release stamp that sold for an even $3,000. And then onto the vintage portion of the video, we saw this guy right here doing exceptionally well. It is the first edition PSA 10 Gengar from Fossil that sold this week for $4,050. And this is a confirmed paid for sale. And what is particularly crazy is this card was selling a week or two ago for about $3,300. So over $700 increase for this card in the past week alone. Speaking of Gengar, here's a CGC 10 Sabrina's Gengar from Gym Heroes that sold for $2,025. We saw a couple of cards from Legendary Collection. Here's a Reverse Holo Abra that sold as a PSA 10 for $1,247, while this PSA 10 Kadabra Reverse Holo sold for $2,441. And these two guys were also confirmed to be paid for. We saw a banger come by from Neo Genesis. It was his first edition Pichu Holo that sold as a PSA 10 for $10,085. And this card always goes for a premium, no matter what auction platform it's on. And then here we have a 2001 Japanese promo birthday Pikachu that sold for $3,652 this week. Here are several old school EX cards that came by. We have a Rockets Moltres EX from EX Team Rocket Returns, sold as a PSA 10 for $860. Here we have a CGC 10 Gengar EX from Fire Red Leaf Green that sold for $1,575. Here's an Umbreon EX from Unseen Forces that sold as a CGC 10 for $1,825. Here's a CGC 10 Suicune EX from Team Magma vs. Team Aqua, sold for $1,125. And then here is a CGC 10 Celebi EX from Unseen Forces that sold for $2,125. Up next, we actually saw several of these 3-pack blisters from the EX era come by. We'll be going over the most notable ones. Here is a 3-pack featuring an EX Unseen Forces pack, Legend Maker pack and a EX Haul-On Phantoms pack that sold for $2,050. And then we saw another one with the same sets sell for $2,075. And then here is a 3-pack blister with 2 EX Crystal Guardians booster packs and a EX Fire Red Leaf Green booster pack that sold for $2,150. And you'll notice that the cardboard that holds these booster packs is in kind of so-so condition, but it's what's inside that counts, right? Got some more sealed product for you here from Heritage Auctions. Was this unlimited base set booster box that sold this week for $13,750, and this box has been typically going for between $13,000 and $15,000. Here is a Japanese Neo Genesis booster box that sold for $15,400. And then we saw numerous booster packs come by on Heritage. I mean, just tons and tons of them. I think most of them were light, if not all of them. But here is an EX Team Rocket Returns blister pack with the Gyarados art that sold for $1,625. And then we saw a group of 4 of the EX Deoxys booster packs that sold for a total of $2,437. We saw a couple of first edition base set booster packs come by. Here's one with the Venusaur art, weighing 20.41 grams. So this pack is definitely on the lighter side. It sold for $1,875. And then we saw another pack sell for $1,750. And then here is a first edition base set blister pack with the Blastoise art. And this pack weighed 32.8 grams. And I'm not too familiar with blister pack weights, so I'm not sure if that's considered light or heavy. Probably light, but this pack sold for $4,750 this week. From the PWCC weekly auction block, we saw this Black Label 25th Anniversary Japanese Charizard sell for $1,410. From Black and White Dragons Exalted, we saw this Full Art Mew EX sell as a PSA 10 for $1,860. We saw from Burning Shadows this Charizard GX Rainbow Rare that went a bit below the $2,000 mark, selling this week for $1,980 as a PSA 10. And here's a card I can never get sick of seeing. It is my favorite Mewtwo of all time, the Holo Mewtwo from Expedition, selling as a PSA 10 this week for $2,400. Here we have a Japanese Holo Umbreon from Reviving Legends that sold for $3,360 as a PSA 10. Here is a Black Label Japanese Mew EX that sold for $4,200. And then we had this CGC 10 First Edition Holo Lugia from Neo Genesis that sold this week for $5,160. And back in June of last year, a card like this was selling for about $17,685. When CGCs first started giving out these Gem Mint 10s, people were going bananas. However, there was probably some market manipulation at hand here, but more recently this card has sold for a little over $5,100. Here we have a PSA 10 Gold Star Rayquaza that sold for $8,700, along with this first edition Shining Charizard in PSA 10 that also sold for $8,700. Here we have a Full Art Team Rocket in PSA 10 from the Team Rocket special case that sold for an even $9,000. Which brings me to the auction of the week. It would have to be the Japanese base set Charizard. Here's one in PSA 10 that sold for $4,200, but this one is not the auction of the week. The auction of the week would have to go to this BGS 10 Pristine example that sold for $18,600. And this is a Pop 2 card as far as BGS 10s go. And that concludes the auction recap, folks. Don't forget to go check out Ketchumallcollectibles if you want to save a ton of money consigning your cards. And please leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of these auctions. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. I really appreciate it. I'll catch you all in my next one.